I've always been that sort of, as the manager, I have to be strong. But actually, sharing your vulnerability is a strength. This is a parent who's just trying to achieve for their child what their child needs and deserves.
If there was one thing about SEND that you wish people understood more.
As a service, we don't hold the purse strings.
You're a proud Dungeons and Dragons player.
They all know that I'm a big geek.
What would you say kind of you or your team's impact is? And would you say that you are invisible? I'm Sam.
And I'm Erin.
And this is Dorset Council's podcast, Invisible Impact.
Because the work we do may not always be visible, but the impact is anything but. So we'll start off nice and simple. So what does your role as team manager for North locality, SEND or SEND? How do I?
Either way.
Okay.
SEND or SEND.
And what is SEND as well?
Yes.
It's quite a council-centric thing.
Yeah, so it's the Special Educational Needs and Disabilities team. So as a team, we've got a responsibility for children with special educational needs and or disabilities and the support they need for their education. And what that looks like for us is we might get requests for a needs assessment where the support is felt to be above what a school might be able to do without something additional. So we are responsible for the needs assessment process, for gathering the advice from various professionals, which could come from the health sector for NHS colleagues, from the care sector, so family help, social care, for example, and from educational professionals, including school professionals, education psychologists, specialist teachers, and so on. And we compile all that advice together to really get an understanding of what an individual child or young person might need to be successful in school. And we look at that to come to a decision around whether or not that level of support requires an educational health and care plan, an EHCP.
A lot of acronyms.
A lot of acronyms, yeah. That's the world of special educational needs. We're all acronyms. That part of actually is really challenging because we've got used to the acronyms, but actually it can almost feel like an alien language to our families. So remembering that is part of what we do. We also then sort of work around the school placement. Is the local primary or secondary school the right setting, or should we be looking for something more specialist? Making sure that the schools are appropriately resourced. That's normally a funding thing from our side of things. But my role specifically as team manager is to support my team to be able to achieve that. And that can be quite different from that sort of very administrative side of things that I've just described. So for me, it's more about empowering my team to be able to achieve those deadlines and those outcomes, making sure that they feel safe at work, making sure that they're supported, making sure that they're challenged when that needs to happen, making sure that their ideas are listened to and implemented where that's the right thing to do. And just making sure that they feel safe and supported in their role, which I hope is what I've managed to achieve.
Excellent. What does your career journey look like? Sort of what brought you to this point, inspired you to get into this work?
So I've had a few different jobs in my working life. So I'm turning 44 next week. So in that time since university, I've been in hotels and worked my way through into hotel management. But then when my first child was born, I felt actually that's not the life for a dad, because I was working every weekend, working throughout the summer, working Christmas Day, and those are all family times. And I eventually found a role with a local authority as a school transport officer. Again, quite a rewarding job, not without its challenges, but the special educational needs team in that council worked in the bank of desks that were directly behind me, and as I was listening to what they were doing, I felt actually what what they were doing was really, really important, and actually for the children that they're working for is the most important thing to be doing. I could see the stresses that they were under, but it felt worthwhile to me. So I made a decision in my foolishness to try and get into SEN.
So it's really worth putting yourself out there to.
Yeah, you never know,
No.
It was nice because I'd moved from a local authority where I hadn't felt perhaps as recognised for what I could bring. So coming to Dorset, and within a few months actually being given the opportunity for a promotion through that application and recruitment process was, it was a lovely surprise to think, actually, I have been recognised, and it's really good. So, yeah.
Is that recognition something you kind of have importance in your own team as well, to make sure that they're recognised for what they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my team, they work really, really hard, and they often work beyond the hours that they should work, and that's really because they care about getting things right for the children, young people that they're trying to support. It is a Herculean task sometimes, but it's really, really worth it. So again, yeah, like you said, part of my role is to recognise that they put that hard work in, that they really care about what they're trying to achieve. But also, I've lost my thread. The other part of that is to sort of champion them, and if I feel that one of my team might be ready for moving into a role similar to mine, perhaps in another locality, is sort of actually having those supportive conversations with them to say, look, actually, I think you should be looking towards that kind of advancement for yourself. Yeah.
So you mentioned sort of, is that huge task, and I know when you said sort of in the office, you were overhearing some of the challenges as well. What are some of these challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis?
I think it's really easy to forget sometimes that parents of children with special educational needs, with disabilities, have found lots of facets of life as a parent challenging, and they don't often feel that they get the support they need from the local authority. Not specifying a particular team or anything, and I'm not saying that every parent has that experience, but it is really difficult. And so when things don't go according to plan, which is the majority of time not anyone's fault, it is just that's how the system is at the moment. It's really, really stressful, and we're dealing with high emotions, and that unfortunately means it spills out onto provision leads, who sometimes get the flack where perhaps they don't really deserve it, but they're the person at the end of the phone at that particular point.
Yeah, I know it's not right, but as a mum, I know I've sort of, even just trying to get some medication for my daughter, you turn into
and that's what you have to do as a parent.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do, and that's what we try and hold in our minds when we have that challenging conversation, is actually this is a parent who's just trying to achieve for their child what their child needs and deserves. So and that it helps us get through those conversations.
Yes.
But yeah, we we are human. Sometimes the error is ours, and we recognise that. But where it hasn't been, perhaps it's that thought that sort of keeps us holding on.
Yeah, of course.
Is there anything you or the team have to kind of help you through the challenging moments? Anything you do or separate that, even some of your mental health or wellness? Yeah,
so we've worked together, like I said, but we're coming up to 4 academic years with that team. It's been relatively stable. We've had some change in staffing, but not an awful lot. But we have we've established a really close bond with each other. So we've got 4 provision leads, 2 SEN casework officers, and myself as the team manager. So the 7 of us have got a really, really close bond. We make a point to try and be in an office together every Friday, just so that we are in the same space as a team. And we've been doing that probably for about 2 years now, and it's really made a difference to how we feel and to our general well-being. And it is that I think when we started working from home, we lost that what the Americans call the water cooler moment. You know, here we probably get up to make a cup of tea, and while we're waiting for the tea to brew, we just have a quick chat with someone, and you might offload, or you might talk about what you watched on TV last night. But it's a really, really important part of a working culture, is just to have that minute every now and then throughout the day where you can just establish a connection with someone. So for us, it's worked really, really well, because like I said, we're in the office together every Friday, and we've all got comfortable with each other.
It's a lot for your team and yourself to take on, so you do need that time to offload and decompress.
And I think that's the other positive thing we have as well, is that it's not just us as an SEN team. So we've got we're part of the learning and belonging strand within children's services. So we've got the SEN team, we've got the inclusion team, we've got specialist teachers and education challenge leads, and actually those 4 services together, we all work really well together, and we've got good connections with them, and that's been part of what's been really good about working in the North locality as opposed to other areas, but perhaps is that there's less of a barrier between those teams.
So outside of work,
Yeah.
you're a proud Dungeons and Dragons player.
Yes, I'm a massive nerd. That's right. Yeah.
Massive nerd. I
Well,
wasn't
I
gonna
was
say
about
it.
to think
I was wondering if Erin was going to ask this question,
I
or
know,
she's
yeah.
waiting for me to ask it. 'Cause she has no idea what she's
Oh, I watched Stranger Things. I get that. Yeah. So does that creative side of you, does that come out at all in work or in life? Yeah, how does that impact?
That creative side of me. Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm currently working through my Open University degree, which is in creative writing and English literature. So there is a creative side
Yes.
to me.
So do you normally DM, or are you playing?
I'm normally a player, but I
Okay.
do dabble in DMing, but I'm not that confident with it. Yeah, this
So that would
be completely
Yeah.
over your head at the moment.
That's the
Google
person
that
who,
one.
like, Dungeon Master, does like the storytelling.
Right, okay.
Like they've set the world and stuff, which is why I was thinking it might be linked to the creative writing.
Yeah, but the moment we look at the provision that our children need on an individual basis, which is right. You know, our children are individuals. They don't all, even those who have got the same diagnoses, don't present the same way, don't need the same kind of support to be successful. But there is often overlap. So actually, considering what a cohort might look like and where there is some commonality in what they need, is that a better way of supporting? And yes, there'll still be that individuality within that cohort of different provisions that are required. But it's often a more efficient and more cost-effective way of meeting those needs. But actually, by pooling the funding needed, the school that we're working with may actually be able to do more with the less money per child, but the pooled money will actually achieve more for each individual child than they would looking at the other way. So yeah, I would say maybe less creative, but more outside the box, and hopefully, touch wood, it's working so far.
Yeah.
But what's really nice for me is that my line manager is very supportive. So our service manager in the north is very, very supportive around that kind of approach. There's a lot of trust to allow me to do things the way I think they should be done. So, you know, I have a job description and a remit and these are the things I have to achieve. But the how to achieve those things is left to me. That's not to say that I don't get challenged if things are not working how are expected. But that challenge comes with an opportunity for me to explain. And so far, so good. We've been able to explain and justify what we're doing. Actually, we've got the outcomes to prove that that we are, by and large, doing things the right way. Yeah.
Excellent.
Have you thought of any kind of way you could overlap with your team and maybe running like a campaign with them or something as part of a well-being time? Or
Back to that.
because it could be good for team morale, I guess. Depends on.
How do I'm not sure I fully understood.
In one of your well-being times, have you
Yeah.
thought about maybe running like a one-shot campaign with your team?
Oh, right, I see. I haven't. No, mostly because they all know. We've known each other for several years. They all know that I'm a big geek, and that's fine. And I'm not ashamed of it. So they know I play Dungeons and Dragons. They know I like my board games, but they're not all into that side of things. Some of them are much more physical. They enjoy rugby and things like that. So I'm not sure it'd be for everyone, but we do explore different activities to try and do together. So we talk about Christmas, and that tends to be a lunch thing. Last summer, for our summer celebration, we went canoeing in Bridport, West Bay. We did that as a team, which was lovely. And we're looking at some different opportunities for this coming summer as well. So we do try and mix it up a little bit.
You mentioned about each child obviously being an individual with individual needs, and I think it's something a colleague said to me in relation to reasonable adjustments in recruitment, that you meet one person who is neurodivergent, you've met one person, they're different, each person has different needs. Is there, if there was one thing about SEND that you wish people understood more, is there anything that you'd sort of share?
What do I wish people understood more? I think what I would like for people to understand is that we, as a service, we don't hold the purse strings. So we hear a lot that we've made decisions based on financial need, and we don't. We have no impact on the budget. We have no impact on how money is spent. We do our absolute best to try and make best interest decisions, which are unfortunately sometimes not the decisions that others may think are the best interest decision. And that's fine, and we'll have that conversation. But I would just like people to understand that no, we don't hold the purse strings. It's not my own personal money, and if it was, you probably wouldn't see me for dust. But yeah, like I said, we do absolutely try and make the right decision for each child, and appreciate that's not always the decision that's wanted or expected, but it's never about the money for us.
When we're asking questions, you mentioned around vulnerability as a manager.
Yeah.
Is that something you think is important in your role and in kind of wider local government?
Yes, absolutely. I think especially in sort of a high demand area like SEND, a lot of my team, a lot of the SEND team across Dorset and across all local authorities, let's say, experience high demand, high challenge, and like I said, we get a lot of volatile conversations, which are not always fair for us to be on the receiving end. So I think most SEND officers struggle at some point with mental health. And for me, having gone through a mental health challenge myself, being able to share that with my team and with my colleagues, whilst that was really scary for me because, I've always been that sort of, as the manager, I have to be strong. But actually, sharing your vulnerability is a strength. And I think for my team, it was quite an eye-opener that I'd gone through quite a challenge myself. But it also meant that I was acknowledging that I'm human. And,
Yes.
and I think it goes a long way to their feeling of safety when they're struggling, that, they've got a manager who understands what that feels like to go through that. And if they need to talk about it, there's not going to be any judgment around someone struggling with their mental health, which I don't think anyone does judge people with their when they have a mental health challenge, not anymore. But I think it's quite natural to fear that you're going to be judged for going through a mental health challenge. So yeah, I think that's gone a long way to making my team feel a lot safer.
I think that's more important as well as a man, that vulnerability. I feel like that's something that men's mental health isn't. We should be more vulnerable, but we're kind of told or shown that we shouldn't, and we should be strong, like you said. So that's why I think it is important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. brilliant.
And so you mentioned sort of having a child kind of made you rethink your career options a bit. Is there anything, I'm just wondering, as you know, obviously you work to support children, watching your child grow up, is there anything sort of from that perspective that influences your work, and vice versa as well? Is there anything from your work that influences how you parent?
Yeah, I mean, as in terms of influencing my work, you know, my children don't have any special educational needs, but actually, when I'm reading about someone's child and we're making a decision around, for example, issuing an EAC plan for them, it does make me think. Actually, you know, if this was my child, what would I want for them? And it is tempered by also my understanding of the SEND system, and I know, you know, what level of support would require an EHCP and what level of support should be available in school. But there is that element of you know, if this were my child, what would I want? But on the flip side of that, and it goes a little bit back to vulnerability, as you said. But when I come home from work, I share a lot about my work day with my family, and sometimes I'll be talking to my wife in front of the children. Sometimes I'll share with my children, and for me, it's that sort of role modelling of how I hope they will behave as adults when they get there as well. So, you know, I had a member of my team off a couple of years ago on a long-term mental health leave, and I was taking time out of my week to meet her for coffee, and not necessarily talk about work things, but just to maintain that relationship, make sure that, you know, she still felt connected to the team even though she was absent at that point. So sort of sharing that back at home as well. Equally, I will show off and talk about how much my team love me, and my children will roll their eyes. But actually, and it was really, really touching. At Christmas just gone, I came back to the office after an appointment at a school, and my desk was there was a display of presents on my desk, and you know, there was a bottle of something, and a box of something, and a card, and my team had clubbed together and got me a Christmas present, which was really, really lovely, and it was quite emotional. And I had to sort of, excuse me, but when I got home, all quite, you know, cock of the walk, and look what my team got me, and my son who is 16 now, so just went, oh, your team really do love you. I was like, I told you, didn't I?
Nothing like a teenager to ground you.
Yeah, but yeah, again, I think you know, that's really important, because he's heard a lot about what I do for the team, what my team do for me as well, and for each other. And then actually, it was really good that he saw the impact of that. You know, it was a material reward, it's not what we do it for, but he's seen that there is something out of it. So hopefully, you know, when he's on his career journey as an adult, hopefully that will shape his workplace behaviour and attitudes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's always that thing, you know, not showing that, oh, I'm going to work because I have to, you know, you want them to feel like actually that's something to enjoy and not something to endure.
Yeah. Bit of both.
Yes.
And so we've called this podcast Invisible Impact, and it's around kind of talking to all these different areas and people in the council that maybe aren't as visible but have a big impact, and kind of showcasing them. And what would you say kind of you or your team's impact is? And would you say that you are invisible?
I think one of the things that we've become really, really skilled at within our team is building connections and relationships. And whilst that doesn't seem like, you know, how does that help our children who you know, need a bit more support than others might? But we've started to, and we're quite a good way into the journey now of building really good relationships with our schools and with our educational settings in the north. And what that means is that you know, a school can contact us and have a good conversation about, you know, I've got I've got Jimmy Smith in the class and he's presenting with these needs. What can we do? What support is out there and available for them? And actually sometimes the schools will come to me and they know that it's likely not an SEN question, but they also know that they can come to me and we'll have a conversation, and I can either signpost them to the correct people, or I can pull someone into a conversation and say, well, I think this is for your team, can you help? So that's really, really good. And ultimately what that means is that schools have got a quicker access to support, which will then benefit the children that they're trying to help as well. So that's, I mean, that is, from a parent's point of view, I guess that is a lot in the background. But yeah, I mean, I can really see the impact of it myself, in terms of the incoming communications we get around, like, complaints and things like that, have dropped hugely since I first started. So yeah, I'd say we started as invisible. We are visible to the schools,
Yes.
in terms of the positive impact, but that's in the background in terms of our parents and families, and quite right as well. It's not something that they necessarily have to be aware of, but it's not equally. There can be, but yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lovely. Lovely.